I'm Rene Ritchie.
And I'm Georgia Dow.
And welcome to Apple Talk, our brand new podcast where we chat about everything Apple, related companies, and what they do to our lives and to our culture. Because they do a lot.
They do a lot. So, Rene, I was thinking that we would start off by talking about clickbait.
Yeah, I did a video on that this week, and it's really something interesting because you and I worked in these big media companies for years.
Right.
I helped run iMore, Android Central, and Windows Central for years, and I totally get the pressures, right?
Yeah, I was hoping to make I'll say from my perspective, is that we tried to make something that people would click on, because if they didn't click, if your article, no one watched it, then you felt bad. So we did try to catch these phrases that would make people want to read it. No one's going to want to read the boring things that you don't want to do with your phone.
Well, maybe they would, but we used to work with professional journalists too, because there were a lot of people whose newspapers got shut down and they came to online. And one of the old sayings was, why write something that nobody's going to read?
Right.
So the point is, and in traditional journalism, you don't even pick your own titles. You write the article and there's a whole editorial department. Some big websites too, I'm sure sites as big as The Verge and some of the other ones, they have people whose entire job it is to pick the title and the homepage. Yeah. So you get blamed for it,
but
you have no control over it. But the thing that started to get me towards the end is this, 2020 is a bad year.
Right. Fair enough.
It's I don't know. It's the worst DC movie of a year. It's the worst Marvel TV series of a year.
This is the test run of the simulation.
Yeah.
The Kobayashi Maru.
This is when the kid playing Sims Our Universe stops caring and just smashes all the buttons.
Right. He's done with the game now.
And the thing is, it's getting harder. So everyone, the executives who aren't media people, they just want to make as much money as possible and cash out as fast as possible, are you've got to get more affiliate revenue. So I want 10 more affiliate posts today. And then why did you stop doing news? We need a lot more hits for the Google ads. Right. So, or for the ads, the house ads.
Right.
So you got to do 10 more news posts
and
today.
That's your salary. You're not, if your company isn't making any money, you're not going to be hired anymore. So,
and to be fair, you're getting no money and they're getting millions, but it's still the pressure's on you.
True.
And so I totally get why some sites are highly motivated. And the same thing happens to me on YouTube. The entire structure of YouTube is you have to get people to click the thumbnail and click the title, or it doesn't matter how good your video is because no one will watch it.
And so, Rene, if we can just define clickbait, right?
Okay.
Because you want to have an interesting title.
Yes.
Interesting title is a really good thing. Having a boring title would be bad. So where does it get to clickbait? Because, for me, it's only when it's bait and switch, where they say, I'm quitting this. Or in the YouTube video, they're I was devastated and they're crying, but they never actually cry in the video. That bait and switch where I expect to get something and I don't, that upsets me.
Yeah.
Versus, I think that if you make an article that makes me want to look at it because you're the most, whatever, the 5 things that your iPhone will do that kills you. But I clicked it and I at least get
that one's on you.
And I get some content that is, bad, if someone throws it from a high, I don't know, whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, I think...
I think that's fair to me.
I don't think that one's fair. I think, but I do think that...
if it really could be. No?
Stop with the killing.
Okay.
But I think that you did make the absolute correct point there, is that there's a difference between clickbait refers to bait and switch. People nowadays, especially in comments, have decided that anything interesting is clickbait.
Right.
You'll have people saying you can't do anything. Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War shouldn't be called that because they're not avenging anything. It's certainly not infinite, and this is more of a skirmish than a war. This should only be called Marvel movie number 37.
Right.
And that's so boring. Please go to sleep. Just please. Yeah. It's supposed to be interesting, but it's not supposed to be bait and switch.
Right.
Whatever
Which is upsetting.
Whatever is promised in the title, I have to over-deliver. I have to make you feel great about what you saw, or you will mentally file me in the nope category.
Fair. Well, can we go into a little bit of the psychology of why does clickbait even work? Because in the end, we wouldn't do it if it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
If I and you did not click, this would not be happening, right?
You didn't click that bait.
You didn't. And so there's certain pieces to our psychology of where clickbait works. And one of them is that innate sense of curiosity that we have. We want to know things, and we especially want to know things that other people don't know, because that was really beneficial for us, for our survival. Yeah. If I know the best way to, use my iPhone and I can get more out of it, you can think that a long time for evolution, that was beneficial to me as a species. If I know how to better hunt, how to better save myself, how to better, control things, that would be good for me. And so that curiosity piece to it, which feeds our brain, is really, really important.
Well, I can tell you from our side of the, I don't mean like our side of things, when you're creating content, the things that you want to do is provoke that curiosity. We deliberately do it. We'll say the truth about the iPhone because it implies there's something, an untold truth, or why everyone is wrong about the iPhone because what are they wrong about?
Yeah.
Or, some people do everything Apple didn't tell you about it, or the secrets Apple didn't tell you. Then why didn't they tell me this?
Yes.
That prompts you, it motivates you.
And I don't think that that's unfair as long as you actually deliver on that.
Yes.
The other thing that works often with what people call clickbait, and we can have a discussion on what you think is clickbait, but is that emotional content. Things that the reasons that we were angry, when we were upset, when we were really sad, why I'm giving up my phone, why this, my phone made me break up with my girlfriend or boyfriend. Emotional content works really well, but especially emotional content that leads to our survival. So the strongly clickbait statement that I said before of, these foods are gonna, cause your destruction.
I believe you said, how your iPhone will kill you, which I would click on, but I would hope very much was a complete lie.
Or not, click that article. It's probably already out there. There's probably already that article out there. But those emotional content to our protection is also really, salient to us because that's directly linked to our survival.
Yeah, we do that too. The things that you're taught, and taught's a wrong word. The things that have proven to be effective on YouTube and on articles, because I blogged for a decade before I did YouTube, is you want to have a good title and a good picture.
Yes.
And the picture should have a human, human faces are great because we relate to them, and human faces showing emotions.
Yeah, emotions are better than emoji. If I see someone really distraught or crying or upset, I'm now intrigued. I want to be a part of that journey with them, and I want to find out. And if I care about them, now I'm really attached to that. So I think that you're right. That does work.
So the basic formula, for a YouTube title, and you can look at everybody from Mr. Beast, who's getting 40 million views per video, to the biggest tech blogs, is a person showing strong emotion plus an object of desire, which could be the latest iPhone or the latest Xbox or a Tesla, anything. Plus, in your case, text, to give it some sort of context. But if you have those three elements,
I read the text with the text with the emotional content of for me works really well. That's when I'm going to click on that. And that click is a dopamine hit. When we get pulled to something and we're being fed this information of I'm actually getting things that you said that you were going to get, which I think is you're delivering on your promise. I don't think that that's clickbait, but it's clickbaity.
So to me, the title is almost I will accept any title. I used to make fun of Forbes titles because it was always, iOS 13 has a nasty surprise. iOS 14 has a nasty surprise. To me, it was just intellectually lazy. And now, Tom's Guide has sort of their version of that with a bad surprise, or it's just the same thing. But I found out the same thing works for me on YouTube. So I'll have Apple is wrong about something, or leak bomb something, because I just look at the analytics and I can have the exact same video. If I do iPad Pro LiDAR explained, very few people will click on it. But literally the exactly same video with iPhone 12 LiDAR explained, everyone will click on. I'm changing one word, and it's not wrong because the iPhone 12 is getting the same sensor. It's just one people have, and therefore it is boring, and one they don't have, therefore it is exciting.
If you had LiDAR, why it's dangerous to use, or the truth and lies of LiDAR. No,
see, but I think that's dangerous. So I don't want to ever and that's why I did that video on Clickbait, because they're getting to the point where they're taking anybody who publishes anything on Twitter, whether they're reliable or not, and using it to monetize anxiety, make people anxious about something and not explain it. And I got some pushback saying, well, aren't you doing the same thing? And in my case, I'm no, they're telling you this might happen. And I'm saying, this is why factually it may or may not happen. I'm going to the effort of researching it.
Right. And trying to actually alleviate people's anxiety instead of feeding off of that. The last thing that works really well for clickbait is lists. people love lists. And the reason that they like the list is because it tells you, if you say like, whatever, the 5 things that you can learn from using your iPhone, it gives you how much you're going to do. And after you've learned that information, you can skip to the next part of that. And so it has very little cognitive load. And our brains are kind of lazy, which is because they use up a lot of resources, and resources were really important. So if you chewed the food already before you give it to the baby bird, that's easier for us. And the strange part that we're not really sure of is that odd numbered lists actually do better than even numbered lists. And the reason that we believe that is that an even numbered list, they believe that maybe you've padded the numbers a little bit to make sure that they're even, versus 17 things that you've learned that is actually better than 20.
And it's funny because on YouTube, you have to handle lists differently than you handle them on blogs.
Right.
Because on YouTube, you have to count down. If you're counting up, the higher the number, the more chance people drop off. Because they don't think you're getting to something exciting. They think they've seen the best thing already. They've already seen the best,
exactly.
Yeah, but if you're like 5, 4, 3, 2, you're like, I want to know what that number 1 is.
Yes.
But if you're like 1, 2, 3, and the other thing is you have to stop.
That's a good point.
You have to stop saying the numbers, because if people think you're getting to the end, they'll drop off. But if they don't,
I need number 1.
Yeah, but so if you are doing a list where you're going up, it's like 1, 2, stop saying it after 2.
Right.
And the next thing is, and this is all like. Yes, this is extremely cheap, but you're dealing with humans. You're making it human.
We are extremely cheap is really what it means.
But see, so I still don't consider this clickbait though, because I feel like I'm giving you something for your attention there. The part that I hate is like these saved you a click things. Because sometimes, yes, like they're on Twitter, like this article is really about this, saved you a click. And no, you denied me an experience, because we talked about this in the first episode. Humans love a story.
Yes.
And when I go to an article, I want to be told a story. I don't want to just know the end. Like, I like spoilers, but I want the person in a lot of cases, the person put tremendous effort into that article, and some dumb Twitter account is like, I'm going to give you the ending.
Well, I'll say I will, if I get all the information in the title, I may not even click the article.
But you never get all the context.
At all. You see, but I'm okay with that. If I only care that much, I just want it really consumable. The other piece, though, to lists that does annoy me is when it's a website and I have to click to a new page and it all loads in.
Because we want more views from you, sorry.
I know, I get it.
That counts as 5 views instead of 1 view.
I know.
5 is more than 1 view.
Yes.
It's 5 times more than 1 view.
I know, I don't like that. Yeah. I'll watch a few of them and then I'm done. I figure out, do I really care to see what this child actor looks like as an adult? I'm like,
and I can say this now because I quit, but like that was a huge amount of contention and all these things. Like you typically have editorial, and like it's different when you're one person because you have to play multiple roles. Like a typical YouTuber, I'm lucky I have an agent, so they handle all of that for me. I don't have to worry about it. But if you're solo, you have to be your own salesperson and your own editorial person, and that's a huge conflict. Like it's really hard to navigate. MKBHD did a wonderful video about how he handles it, but in a typical publication, the sales weasels are like, do this, and the typing monkeys are like, no, we're not going to do this, and you sort of wrestle over it, and that gets you sort of a balance because the typing monkeys will push back on everything, and the sales weasels will want everything, anything, and you need that tension.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are hashtag team sales weasels or hashtag team typing monkeys, but I think neither.
I don't know. I think I lost the last hashtag. I don't feel like doing another one.
You didn't. I think you had the moral victory.
That just means I lost.
Okay. It is interesting though, because I think many people are pushing back on the idea of clickbait, but at the same time not understanding the definition of it.
Right.
And because you were trying to explain this to me the other day, I was asking whether the internet had removed our upper brain mediation, and you were saying it wasn't so much that, but that it was letting people with no upper brain mediation post a lot of stuff.
Well, it's just, it's very easy. Everyone can kind of post anything and gives everyone a voice, which is wonderful. But it's hard to find out what has been thoroughly, looked at and researched versus stuff that isn't. And because we are already inclined to consume things that are kind of pre-digested for us, we become even more lazy because you don't have to research it yourself. You don't have to look. It's hard to tell. It's an easy thing to just shout fake news or that I don't believe in this or I have this opinion. And because everyone can have an opinion and often it's anonymous, people can kind of shout at you even if you haven't done that thing, and just because they've said it doesn't mean you have to respond to it.
Like, I was just looking through my comments. I actually tweeted about this yesterday. I was looking through
Yeah.
my comments, and people are like, if you don't talk slower, I'm unsubscribing. If you don't talk faster, I'm unsubscribing. If you don't change your graphics, I'm unsubscribing.
Right.
If you change your graphics, I'm unsubscribing. If you don't talk more about the iPhone, if you don't talk less about the iPhone, I'm unsubscribing. If you talk about things different than the iPhone, I'm unsubscribing. And it's just, like, they're not commenting on the video. They're often commenting on the meta surrounding the video.
Which is nice that they share and that they care enough to make a comment. But how do you feel? Because you act like if you don't already know, Rene really cares about producing the best videos that he can. He spends a lot of time and effort for it. And I think that a lot of people on YouTube do. They really care. This is their product, their like child that they're putting out in the world to help people. So how do you cope with that?
I find it hard because, like, especially like in the beginning, people said I talk too fast. And it's the way I talk. It's really, really hard to change the way you talk.
You used to talk faster.
Yeah, I've been working on making it slower. And then some people are like, talk slower. And then a few people pointed out, there's a ×1 or ×7.5. You can change the speed on YouTube. This is not a human problem.
Right.
But the thing for me is, like, if you're Daryl Eves or Nick Nimmons or Roberto Blake, and you spent an intense amount of time studying this, and you want to tell me that it's a way to optimize my thumbnails, I am super grateful. But a lot of times, like, they'll say you should change this, and I'll say, well, have you studied this? Like, no, I just prefer it. And that, I think people are forgetting what's subjective versus objective anymore.
Which is fair. The only thing is that, like, that you're getting the comments, like, people are watching the video also, right? So you end up with, you want people to still engage. Like, I love all the comments, even the ones that were really helpful, that were like, you know what, you should do A, B, and C, which we tried to change. Hopefully this is more normal instead of us just I don't know, I'm trying.
No, but every morning talk show is like this. Justine and Jenna Azaric's
so
podcast.
good at it.
They are so good at it.
That was so good.
So, like, and I understand people don't always like this. We don't like this, and we'll tell you why we don't like it, as opposed to we don't like this, and we got to figure out how to fix it for you, are two different things.
Right. And where it's coming from. Sometimes people are just trolling for trolling, and sometimes they genuinely want to help. But
like, we could be Regis and Kathy Lee. They sat like this for 30 years, I think.
They did. They were probably better.
Ryan and Kelly.
They were better.
We could be Ryan and I forget that they have Ryan and Kelly.
Can
now.
I be Ryan? You can be Kelly.
I don't know if I have her
pep.
energy.
She's
Yeah,
really she has really good
peppy.
energy, and I don't have the great voice. Anyways, we're gonna work on it.
Yeah.
Make it better. So send your comments. Don't worry, please.
And I feel real awkward about this because we had scheduled to talk about how bad the presentation was at the Google event. Not really, but kind of.
Oh goodness.
So now we're doing the exact same thing that we just.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna do that anyways. But you can use that against us.
Yeah, totally.
We're being hypocrites.
Everyone is
We're being
contextually a
hypocrites.
hypocrite. Nobody talks to their kid the same way they talk to their parent.
We're going to try to do better. We're going to hopefully give constructive
Yes.
feedback so that they do better as well, because, we're watching these events and we'll say what we
Well,
like
I mean,
and
we
we
are
don't
mostly
like.
going to talk about the technology. It's just some of the presentation choices. I said this on Twitter too. It feels to me like Google events are the Nicolas Cage acting choice of events. It's like, with Apple, you
have
get
to
the straight
explain that.
read. Like, you get like the person came from the actor's studio or Juilliard, and they will give you the classical performance. They'll hit all the notes. It's always the same, and that might bore some people. It's always the same from event to event,
Right.
but it's always like a classically trained actor performance. Where the last few Google events really have felt like, oh, we're just going to Nicolas Cage it, where we're going to be idiosyncratic, but because we made not because you are, like, not because it's
Right.
natural.
No, it
so,
came off a little bit. Yeah.
like, they had this one guy who was in charge of the audio stuff, and he was elaborately dressed, which I loved, but he was never looking at us, and
And you could tell that he was reading.
Yeah.
Reading from a teleprompter, because he was kind of looking like away from where the camera is, and you could see his eyes. They were like just straight on.
which
reading
Samsung did the
words that
time
come out.
before. Like, they stopped. Thankfully, they stopped, but they did that the time before
And
too.
I'll say that on the last Apple event, I did notice the same thing. There were some people that you could tell that they were reading. It was less natural. It came off a little bit. So I don't want to say that this.
Well, but they were doing. I think the difference is that Apple was trying to do their stage event in
Yes.
real life, and it didn't work. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be presenting as though you're on stage to an audience when you're shooting it without an audience, not on a stage.
Right. And
Because
some
it
people
feels off.
are not practiced at being
Yeah.
able to speak. I think that a lot of people were saying that, that maybe some people that work on YouTube, like perhaps you, Rene, could like give a little tiny piece.
Sounds
'cause
like
they're
Alex
more-
Lindsay to me. Is this an Alex Lindsay thing?
I think it was Leo that said
Okay.
it, actually. But, so that might be better because if you're running whatever design, you might be great at design, but you might not be great at public speaking. So I can understand that also.
The Google event, they did try to have a few YouTubers, but they were so different in context. Like the gaming person was completely different than like, I forget what the other YouTuber was, but it didn't make a cohesive event for me.
Yeah, and the pacing. I liked that it was short.
Yeah,
I
30 minutes was great.
30 minutes was lovely. I think that tightening that up was wonderful because just give me that candy. I don't want to have to watch and listen to stuff that I don't really care about. Other people might care about, but I want the consumed and kind of fed to me.
So I have it here. The stuff itself was interesting. Like the headline event was the Pixel 5, I think. Like to me, that's the big news. They put the Pixel 4a 5G at the beginning, gave it very little time because it really is a Pixel 4a that's already out. It just has 5G. And then it went straight into the Pixel 5. And Google's whole thing was we're putting the G, as in Google, into 5G. And I've complained about this with Apple as well. Well, Apple actually hasn't done it yet. I've preemptively complained about this with Apple. Is like, I know carriers are really pushing 5G because they think it's this big new Hail Mary revenue source for them. And finance and marketing people love it because they think they can charge us more and sell us more with it. But almost everyone I talk to in the industry just doesn't think 5G is a thing yet.
And I think that people that don't really know what they're just like, okay, like I just want the newest phone. I don't really care.
And the messaging is so mixed. It's like you can download a movie in 3 seconds, but you have to stand on this spot, on this block. And if you turn around or go inside, or the wind changes, or the rain comes, or the leaves blow, you drop back down. And that doesn't feel like consumer ready to me yet.
Right. Yeah. I didn't find it as compelling.
And the other thing I find odd about Google, and maybe it's in a good way, is that when you look at like the iPhone over the last 4 years, or just ever, Apple introduces a new iPhone, like whether it's the iPhone 6 platform or the iPhone 10 platform, every other year is an iteration that gets better and better. So the iPhone XS is almost the same, better camera, better processor, better display. iPhone 11, better camera, it's the same platform, but better. And Samsung is the same thing, like the Galaxy Note, better every year. Galaxy S, better every year. Galaxy Fold now, same basic thing, just better year over year. Where Google does like these crazy Ivans, like from Hunt for Red October, like their next phone is a complete repudiation of their previous phone. They get up on, and what makes it so weird, like what cringy, is they get up on stage and they say these things so emphatically. Like last year, the head of Google Photography, who since left the company, maybe this is why, got up on stage and said, we don't need any wide angle camera. That's for kids. That's fun stuff for kids. We're using a telephoto camera. And then someone else is like, we're doing face unlock and we're doing it with this awesome Daredevil radar sense technology called Project Soli. And then this year, that's all gone. There you have a wide angle lens for the kids to have fun with. And there's no Project Soli or face unlock.
But isn't that kind of like the usuals? Like, I think that we're used to the spin. Like, I think that people kind of know that no matter what they do, even if it's not going to be any better, or even like they've forgotten what happened before, and not everyone even knows what they don't remember what happened before. So they're just going to buy the newest phone.
It haunts me, Georgia.
Does it haunt you? Like the best, I'm never going to get a cursor, the best pencils on your finger, right? I'm not going to get a stylus. Sorry, there we go.
But that's years. So the thing is, Steve Jobs was notorious for saying things like, we're never going to put video on an iPod, and then there's video on an iPod. And we're never going to, like, you don't need if you see a stylus, you failed. And then, that was like 5 years later they made the Apple Pencil. Or, we're not going to put
so it's the timeline that bothers you.
Well, and also, no one's going to use a small iPad. But, he hired people who he trusted to be smart, and they would have different ideas, and they would fight with him. And they'd say, no, Steve, you're wrong about iTunes on Windows. No, Steve, you're wrong about small tablets. And he'd say, fine, I hired you because you're smart, but if you get this wrong, it's your ass. But he would trust them to do it.
Right.
And by comparison, when Jeff Bezos was making the original Fire phone, they're all like, we're going to make the world's best shopping phone. And he's like, yeah, but it's got to have a parallax display. And they're like, that's irrelevant. We don't need that. And he's like, you're fired. And the next guy learned, and he's like, okay. And then they did it, and it was ridiculous because everyone wanted a shopping phone. Nobody wanted a parallax phone. And so Google gets up and says, we don't need a camera bump, and then they add a camera bump. We don't need optical image stabilization. They add it. We don't need two cameras. They add it. We don't need wide angle. Just don't say that first part. Don't say the quiet part out loud, and you're fine. You're golden.
Do you think that it's directed specifically at, say, Apple? When
Yes,
they do that?
I think that they're trying to say that we're better. Apple and Samsung. We're better than them because we don't need the things they need, and then they find out almost immediately they really needed them.
Or is it just that people are following the pack, and that's why we don't, like, all phones, even the audio system, they start to look exactly the same, which bothers me about big companies because we don't have, cool, different, and we knock them when they do something so different that it's like off kilter. So I understand. But then they end up with things speaker systems that look exactly like a HomePod. I'm like, that looks like a HomePod. Like, what? Can't we have stuff that looks cool and different and new?
I love that. Like, if you're not Apple, please don't make an iPhone, because if I don't want Apple, chances are I don't want an iPhone. I know some people want an iPhone that's not made by Apple because they just don't like Apple.
Right.
But I'm like, I have an iPhone. I want something completely different. The thing that pushed me over the line was last year when I have it here. I got the Pixel 4. I get the new Pixel every year. I used to get the Nexus every year. Now I get the Pixel every year. And it had a lot of problems. Like, every Pixel has had a lot of problems, just basic engineering problems, whether it's substandard displays or bad battery life, or the failure to record images and movies properly. And I was like, why? And then the story came out that Rick Osterloh, who runs product for Google, had a meeting 1 month before launch to say, why was the battery so small? And my heart just sank, because there's no way the head of product should only find out the battery small 1 month before launch.
Yeah, because what are you going to do about that?
But also, like, at Apple, there is no way like a Greg Joswiak or Kyan Drance wasn't babysitting that product cycle from the instant the first concepts came out. Like, they ran those things for years. They knew everything about it intimately, from conception through different prototypes, through choosing which prototype would go ahead, through launch. And a month before launch, the guy who runs product is asking why the battery's that small. That to me is like an abject failure of product management. And the other thing that kills me is that I still, like, you can like an iPhone or hate an iPhone, like a Galaxy phone or hate a Galaxy phone, but I always get the feeling, even Huawei, like a OnePlus, that it's a team phone. Like, that everybody knew early on what phone they wanted to make, and they all worked together to make it. Where at Google, depending on who you ask, you get very different reasons for why they're making a phone. Like, the executives all say, we want an iPhone. And the product people are all like, we want to, what's it called? Dog food, these new features, which is why you get like a bathtub notch 1 year and a radar sensor the next year and a hole punch the next year, because they want to try out things to help other Android vendors. And then you have this fight with people who just want to make a cheap developer phone. And you can't have these three very important groups not working on the same product.
Right. Right. And that goes to Apple being very much more controlling of what they're doing and their image and what they're going to be kind of coming at, what the culture is, what they're hoping for. They have kind of one thought process, which means things are at least going to be working together for one main goal. Versus Google, you'll end up with lots of different interesting features, but they may not work very well or collaborate well together. But we can end up with some interesting or unusual different products that we can have, which, is kind of a plus sometimes.
Can I put you on the spot for a second?
Oh, please.
So if you were brought in, if Google's like, Georgia, we have this problem. We just can't get all our Pixel stakeholders on the same page. We can't get them to work together on a single cohesive product. How would you handle that problem?
So if we're talking about their stakeholders, so we're talking about all of the people that have stock in the company?
Their executives, the people who are running the product, and the people who are engineering the product.
Well, the first thing is you need to have one cohesive thought of I would always say, work backwards. It's always the same thing, is you want to say, what would you want your goal to be? And then you work backwards from that goal to be able to see, how do we then create it? If you all have different goals, one wants to make a whole bunch of money, one wants to have the most popular phone, one wants to have new innovations to be able to license. These are differing views, and if you have differing views, you're driving a car and everyone's trying to go in the different direction, or you're all kind of attached to each other and pulling apart. And I think that doesn't work for a company. I think that Apple does a great job of making sure that they have a unified vision. They know where they want to end up, and they do a great job of backwards engineering that to where we have now. It makes for a company that is more controlled and probably a little bit slower on trying out really new things, but I think that it works, that things that are going to be, put into the phone are going to work together as a unit much better. So like puzzle pieces, instead of we're going to have to kind of jam these pieces together. together.
It's
And
interesting 'cause
so
Steve
that's
Jobs,
what I would do.
Steve Jobs gave a talk about that once a long time ago, where he's like, we don't pick a technology and then try to figure out what products we can make.
Right.
We pick a product and figure out what technologies we need to achieve it. And famously, Amazon with Jeff Bezos, back apparently when he was still paying attention to the company, because he says he doesn't know what's happening there now. He would say, make me the press release. Like, I want to see the press release for the finished product, because if you don't know what that is, I can't trust you to make the product.
Right.
But if you have that press release, I know and we approve it, I know everything you're doing is to get to the product that you know we're going to sell.
That was the wonderful thing, though, of Jobs, is that he was a great visionary. He did have an idea of where he wanted to get to, and like him or not like him, he was single-minded about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are some things I really liked about the Google event, because like it's always easier to start with the negative stuff because it fires you up. But
Clickbait.
Clickbait, yeah. Full circle. They announced this Google Chromecast, which is this little tiny, beautiful little, I don't know what to call it, like ellipse, or obelisk, I don't know. And you just plug it right into your TV.
Right.
And their sales pitch for it was, we'll take any old TV and turn it into like a new Google TV. And this is something 2 years ago, the information rumored that Apple was working on an Apple TV stick, but we've seen no sign of it. They keep making deals with like Samsung TV. They just made a deal with Xbox and Sony to put the TV app on it. But I would love an Apple TV Express. That's just a little stick that I could plug in.
Just plug and play and go.
Yeah.
And they have a cute little tiny controller.
Yeah.
But the only thing with the controller, because again, I think it has a couple of the Apple flaws, is that it's I don't think it's as easy to flip around and you don't know which side you're using to it. A little bit better. But I love the idea that they have like a Netflix button and a YouTube button. I kind of like that. But I would like it to be like you could make it what you want.
Yes.
Because what if you don't use Netflix? Now you have a button.
What if you use Disney Plus instead?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would love if you could program it to be your main button.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking instead of a Netflix, and because they actually physically say Netflix and YouTube,
says Netflix on it,
I would love like a square and a triangle, and I can just know the square is Disney Plus and the triangle is YouTube, or the square is, I'm trying to think what America has because we have different channels, but like one is Hulu and one is TV Plus.
Right.
You could choose.
But the thing is that if you are not as tech savvy, I think this might work better. So we talk about customization, and Apple usually just like you don't have to worry about customizing.
You have one
it's
choice
going to
and
do
it's
it.
theirs.
Exactly. You can have this car in every color as long as that color's black.
Yeah.
So I think that in that case, for many people, it is, Netflix or something else. For other people, they're going to be like, totally no.
They're the most popular services. I get it.
And so it makes sense to just kind of have it on one
But
button.
it's the
But if
reverse.
not, you can click into it.
It's the reverse. Like Apple usually gives you the no choice, and Google usually lets you customize. It's like Apple's photo team goes out of their way to give you a natural photo so that you can do things like crush the blacks and boost the sat. Where they're opinionated on everything else. They'll tell you how to listen to your music, but they won't tell you how to take the photo.
They'll tell you your music's too
where
loud.
like Samsung and Google will do all these things to like let you customize it what you want, but they're like, no, we're going to boost the sat and crush the contrast for you automatically. It's like that one thing they've got to all be contrary about. It's like the Afghan rug, just pulling out that one string.
Just to make it unique.
So ultimately, Georgia, what did you think of the new Pixel stuff?
I thought that it was interesting. I liked actually the controller that goes with the phone. It kind of sits. Yeah, I thought that was
so awkward to me.
I thought it was kind of cute.
It's like I have a dinner tray on my controller.
So you have your like phone, and then you have we'll show an actual picture, and then you have the little controller underneath it. And I'm like, I could see people doing that. There's certain games that I'm sorry, tapping on glass and trying to move your character is annoying and horrible. And we've reviewed like the little tiny joysticks that you stick onto the phone so that you can deal with it. I find that horrible. I liked it. I thought it did look a little bit ridiculous, but I liked it. I thought, oh, you know what? If I'm gaming on my phone and I'm playing, say, Call of Duty Mobile, I want the fastest speed. I want this to work better. And if I'm going to get more kills, I'm going to use this.
But you don't like it more than the Switch design? Like if they just put the controllers on both sides of the phone? Like a Nintendo Switch?
No.
No?
I like the idea of having it. One is, the only thing is you can't really see the buttons. And so if you're intuitive, you've been, gaming for a really long time, you don't have to look. But I'm dyslexic. So when I play certain games, like they say tap the X button, and it doesn't really matter how many times.
Up, right, left, right, left.
Yeah, it's going to be wrong. I'm not doing any Konami code anytime soon. But I'll forget which button, so I actually have to look. So then I'd have to look up and take a look because it isn't on the sides. But I thought it was kind of innovative.
I like that the goal was to be helpful. Like I have a lot of feelings about, we talked about this last week, about digital assistants and microphones and cameras in our house. but Google seems to, and this I think their vision is crystal clear on, as opposed to the phones. Like I think when it comes to their software and their services, A triple plus, like they are really trying to go, like they have this new service where it'll stay on the phone for you while you're on hold and then alert you. And I'm a little anxious about it because I wonder if I'll be fast enough to answer after they answer, or they'll hang up on me. It'll be like, oh, they're answering the phone call. They're answering the phone call. I'm like, I'm coming. And they're like, anybody there? Hello, anybody there? And then click, and I'll have to do it all. But if it works, that's the kind of thing that genuinely takes.
I did really like that idea as well. I worried about it. Like I wasn't sure about trusting that. Is it actually going to know? Because sometimes like a voice comes on saying, we're going to be answering your phone call soon, but we're not here. Is it going to constantly tell me that? Like, how does it know it's an actual voice?
You are number 537 in the lineup.
Then an automated or a recorded voice, that I wasn't sure about, but I hate being left on hold. I thought that was a wonderful idea of a service that makes your life better.
Yeah, and I think, as long as it's informed consent, and like, and you know what you're giving, what terms of data you're giving to get that service, and if it's important enough to you and valuable enough to you, then I think it's great. And I think all the things that they're doing, whether it's the translation, the voice, the auto subtitling, the captioning, all that kind of stuff is just terrific.
I wanted to mention there was someone that I thought spoke really well. Her name was Maya.
Yeah.
And she spoke beautifully. So not everyone, it was awkward. I thought that she spoke with life. She really cared about what she was saying. It was intuitive. I loved it. So I just wanted to mention, not everyone at the Google event was kind of more... You could tell coached.
And not everyone at the Apple events are great. Like it really varies.
No,
yeah.
But I love the fact that there was a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really good. And I think that the same thing for the Apple event.
Yeah, Apple events need more of that too.
Yeah.
So we do have one more topic to get into, but it's the exclusive topic for Nebula, where we typically go over a couple of our favorite or least favorite things.
And I have some really interesting ideas that I'm going to have you do.
So afraid. I'm
you
so
really
afraid
should
right
be
now.
Actually. These are really
afraid.
You should be really afraid, actually. I've already gotten some. Right. It's going to be interesting.
So yeah, the bonus topic, which is exclusive to Nebula viewers and listeners, is coming up, and you can get that at nebula.com /Apple Talk. You can find the audio version of the podcast, the video version of the podcast there with the extended topics, and maybe, who knows, the end of me. And if you are not subscribed to Nebula right now, it's terrific. Just go to curiositystream.com /Rene Ritchie. You can sign up, and for I forget, like $17 a month, you get $70 a year. Sorry, $70 a year. It's so good. You get both CuriosityStream and Nebula, and then you get the full version of the podcast and so much more stuff.
Yeah.
But for people who aren't joining us on Nebula, for people who are piecing out on YouTube or the regular podcast right now, Georgia, where can they find you? Where can they complain about your clickbait and totally cringy performance?
Well, please post a comment. I read them. So post a comment down below. Yeah, or a review. I would love that. Please subscribe. It makes a huge difference to us, and it helps me feel better. And if not, you can check me out. I'm on Twitter. It's @Georgia_Dow. And if you're dealing with anxiety or depression, you can check out anxiety-videos.com. How about you, Rene?
I am @Rene Ritchie on everything. So youtube.com /Rene Ritchie, twitter.com /Rene Ritchie. I am, like I keep saying, the most boring or the most consistent person on the internet. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're on Nebula, stay tuned, because what are you doing to us today, Georgia?